We're very happy to partner again with Residents Forward for their next segment in the Know Better, Do Better series. I want to thank Trish Class and Karen Alevy, for helping make this program possible. And I want to thank Michael Kelly, who's the director of the Town of North Hempstead Solid Waste Management Authority, who is going to help lead tonight's discussion. And I'm going to turn it over now to Trish Class. Take it away, Trish.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you everyone for joining Residents Forward this evening for the third of our Know Better, Do Better series. We're always open to new ideas and feedback. So if you have any thoughts on topics that you'd like covered in the future, please reach out to us at our email address, which is info@pwresidents.org. Or if you'd like to hear more about everything that we're doing at Residents Forward, or join our mailing list, or maybe become a member, we'd love to hear from you. The Town of North Hempstead recycling program relies on everyone's participation and cooperation. Overall, the best thing that we can do is to reduce our use of single-use plastics, of course, but there are many other materials that can also be recycled. And so we decided to go to the source, Michael Kelly, to explain Recycling 101. Take it away, Michael.
Okay, thank you, Trish. And as Trish said, my name is Michael Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Town of North Hempstead Solid Waste Management Authority. I'd like to thank Residents Forward and the Port Washington Public Library for putting this together tonight. I think that we're going to have a very informative and very helpful program for everybody. I think we'll be able to answer a lot of questions and just kind of clear up any confusion that people may have about proper recycling in the Town of North Hempstead. But just generally first, before we get into recycling rules, I want to spend a little time talking about who we are at the Solid Waste Management Authority and what we do here. And just generally how recycling from a macro level works in the town. So the Solid Waste Management Authority has, when you boil it down, we have four major areas of responsibility. We manage the closed landfills in Port Washington. We operate the transfer station in Port Washington. We enforce solid waste regulations in the town. And we're responsible for the collection of waste and recyclables in the garbage districts that we control, that the town controls, as opposed to the villages and the commissioner-operated districts. Probably the most relevant to everybody out of all that is the last one, is the collection of recyclables. Just generally, the way recycling works in the town is we operate a transfer station, and that transfer station is just that. It is a transfer station. Waste gets brought into the transfer station. It gets deposited in separate areas depending on what it is, and then it gets hauled away from the transfer station depending on what it is for disposal or sorting at a recycling facility, depending on what it is. So a truck that has collected recyclables, separated recyclable stuff that's already been recycled at curbside, separated from garbage, is brought into the transfer station, placed in an area for recyclables. That gets picked up by our recycler, who is Omni Recycling of Westbury, and they bring it to their facility where they do the sorting, the weeding out stuff that is not actually in fact recyclable, and they are the ones that market those recyclables to companies that use it as raw materials for recycling things, making new items. So at the Town of North Hempstead transfer station, when recyclables come in, we are not sorting recyclables at the transfer station. We are not going through the pile of garbage that's brought in and weeding out recyclables, like we hear sometimes that people are told. That all happens at a recycling facility that we contract with. So that's just kind of a general overview about how recycling recycling works, the process of it. But what I really, I think that, why we're all here today is, to accomplish the goals of helping us recycle what can be recycled, to avoid situations where people use the curbside recycling program to recycle things that they believe should be recycled, or that's what we call wish cycling. And avoid the contamination of our recycling loads, which affects the entire recycling stream. So what we're trying to do, I think the goal that we should all be moving forwards with, all of us, is everybody following the same rules, whether you're in a district, whether you're in an incorporated village, and recycling the way that recycling should happen, so that the system of recycling can keep going, so that things are as marketable as possible, because ultimately it's markets and it's technology that governs what can be recycled and what can't be recycled. Everything that I'm going to say, or most things that I'm going to say tonight, depending the level of detail, is on our website. On our website is a booklet. It's called How to Dispose of Your Stuff in North Hempstead. We also have physical copies of this booklet. So if you don't have this booklet and you want a physical copy of it, call 311. We'll be happy to send one to you. Also, soon we're going to be sending to households in the town these informative stickers to put on recycling containers that people have, so that you can see this container is for glass, metal, plastic, and this is exactly what you should be putting in this container, or this container is for paper, cardboard, this is exactly what you should be putting into the container. So we're trying to put as much information out there as possible, so that people are doing things uniformly and following the rules. So I think, so what I want to do is just talk about a few general categories of rules for recycling in the town. The first being curbside recycling, and then we'll get into electronics, and we'll get into number 5 plastics, which is our most recent initiative. Okay, so curbside recycling rules. When it all comes down to it, it's, the general rule is pretty simple. The only things that can be put in recycling cans at curbside in the town of North Hempstead are number 1 and 2 plastic, glass bottles and containers, metal containers, cans, tins, things like that, as well as cardboard boxes, newspapers and magazines, and other paper items. So as a general rule, that's it. So number 1 and 2 plastic only, no other numbers of plastic, cardboard, paper, glass, metal. Those are your items. So first of all, plastic, glass, and metal containers. So plastic, like I said, 1 and 2 only. Very easy to figure out. Turn it over. It's right on the bottom. You'll see what we call the chasing arrow symbol. It'll have a number in it. And if it's a 1 or a 2, you can put it in a recycling container. Glass containers only, bottles like this or jars. We get a question a lot, can you put sheet glass in the recycling container? The answer is no, because it's not the same kind of glass, and what it does is it breaks in the trucks. It's very dangerous, and it's very dangerous for the workers. So bottles only, or containers only. Also metal containers, things like tin cans, metal takeout containers that you get from the restaurant. If you have tin foil that is clean and does not have any food on it at all and didn't have any food on it, then you can recycle that as well. But if tin foil did have food on it, it's pretty much garbage. All of these things, these 3 categories of items, plastic, metal, and glass, they all go into the same container. They all go into the same the same bin, or you can also put it in a clear plastic bag so that the collector can see that these are recyclable materials. Very, very important point. When you put something into the recycling container, it has to be clean. It has to be free of food. It has to be free of oils. And if it's not clean, it's going to get everything else in the container or in the load dirty. And that's going to be a problem from the point of view of eventually marketing those recyclables. So please clean your containers before you put them into the recycling bin. I'm not saying you have to sit there and sanitize them. I mean, I think that's a little too much effort, but if you get all the food and the oil off of it and it's substantially clean, that's the goal we should be going for. So that is plastic, glass, and metal in a nutshell. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about specific situations. I'd be more than happy to answer those at the end of the program. So that's one category. The next category is cardboard and paper. So cardboard and paper includes cardboard boxes, it includes scrap paper, it includes magazines, it includes newspapers, sloth covered books, junk mail that you get, folders, and also shredded paper, and I'll get to that in a second. When we talk about cardboard boxes should always be either, if they're small enough, put into a container or broken down and tied. Because if they're like this, if they're a large box, there's going to be less and less room in the garbage truck to fit all the recycled boxes that have to be picked up on the route. They should be flat and tied up. They should be put into if they're small enough, like I said, they should be put into a container. And if they're not, either tie them up, or you can even put them in a clear plastic bag so that the recycling collector can see that. Cardboard can be mixed with your other paper items, so you don't have to worry about cardboard in one container or another paper in another container. You can put it all together. There's a number of considerations that you may come across when it comes to cardboard in your recycling. The first one is, like I said, shredded paper. So we do accept shredded paper for recycling in the town. The thing that we ask people to do is, if you're going to put it out, don't put it in a container, don't put it in a box, put it in a clear plastic bag and knot that bag tightly. The reason being is that once it goes into the recycling truck, if it's free in a box or it's free in a container, all of a sudden little bits of shredded paper are going everywhere. Also, if you put it in a black plastic bag, and this happens often, it gets mixed up for leaves on yard waste day, and it ends up in the yard waste pile at the transfer station, and there's shredded paper all over the place. So please, if you're going to be putting out shredded paper, please put it in a clear bag so that it can be identified as shredded paper. I have an example here of a pizza box. Pizza boxes, they're cardboard. You would think that they could be recycled, but 99 out of 100 pizza boxes look like this. They have a giant slab of grease in the middle of it because the pizza is put in the pizza box. As a result of that, pizza boxes are generally not recyclable because they're contaminated with the grease. So if you have a pizza box, please just throw it in the regular garbage because, like I said, 99 times out of 10, it's not going to be recyclable. A lot of times, as I was saying, we were talking before the presentation about things like greeting cards or foil wrappings. Those are what we call, those fall into like a general category of what we call mixed materials, where you have paper and you have something metallic on it, or you have something plastic on it. So if you have a regular greeting card and it's just paper, by all means, throw it in the recycling bin. If you have a greeting card and it has glitter all over it, or it has little plastic parts on it or metal parts on it, unless they're like you can easily take them off and throw out the plastic part or throw out the metal part, that greeting card is garbage. Because from a recycling perspective, when recyclables go to a recycling facility, they have to be single material items, things like a glass jar, or things like a plastic container, or just a paper greeting card. So if you have those small items, they could, they make that item not recyclable. Foil wrapping papers, for example, again, those are metallic paper. Those are not recyclable. Those go in the garbage as well. Like I said, paper, you can put it all in the same container. You can put it in a can or a clear bag. We get a lot of questions about envelopes with windows in them, or boxes that have a large piece of plastic on it. What we suggest people do is, again, those are what we call mixed materials, but those are a little easier to deal with. If you can take off the plastic from the cardboard box, by all means, take the plastic off the cardboard box, throw out the plastic, recycle the rest of the cardboard box. Those are a little bit easier to deal with than glitter and small plastic and metal pieces on greeting cards. And that's generally paper. Like I said, just repeating the general rules: cardboard, newspapers, magazines, shredded paper, scrap paper, soft cover books can all go into the same container. Large boxes, broken down, tied, put out for recycling. I want to go into a little bit more detail on mixed materials. Mixed materials, like I said, are generally not recyclable because they're made from more than one material. A good example of mixed materials you may encounter is paint can. A lot of new paint cans, they have a plastic bottom and metal sides. Because of that mixed material, a paint can, aside from the fact that it's filled with paint, a paint can is also generally not recyclable and should go into the garbage. We can talk about paint later as well, because that's another issue. Like I said, if things can be torn apart and you can make it into a material that is just one material, by all means. If it's a mixed material, though, that material should go into the garbage. So as far as curbside recycling, that's pretty much it. We follow a saying, when in doubt, throw it out. If you have a plastic container for some reason, you turn it over, it doesn't have any number on the bottom of it, it's not recyclable. It should go into the garbage because it doesn't have a category. If you're in a pinch and you got to put out the recycling right then and there, and you're unsure about a material, please put it in the garbage. Don't put it in the recycling. If you do have a question that I'm not answering tonight, that you want an answer from us, please feel free to dial 311. Call us or email us, and we will be more than happy to answer any question you have about anything that can go into recycling. And that's curbside recycling. That's the first major topic that I have today. The second thing I want to talk about is that I think would be very helpful is electronics. We get a lot of questions about how to recycle electronics and what electronics are actually recyclable. The rule, it's a confusing topic, and it's made confusing by state law. But what I try to tell people with regard to electronics is try to make a differentiation between things that are electric and things that are electronic. For instance, a blender is electric, a refrigerator is electric, a microwave is electric, a computer is electronic, a phone is electronic, a printer is electronic. So if you're ever confused about what you can recycle as an electronic recyclable, try to make that distinction. But I'll give you a general list now anyway. Things that are electronics: televisions, computers, printers, iPads and other kinds of tablets, e-readers, monitors, computer peripherals like mouses and cords, CD, DVD, VHS players are all electronic waste, game consoles, and small scale servers. Those are the general categories that we give. And that's about 95% of what you see as an electronic recyclable. Things that, like I said, examples of things that are not electronic recyclables: appliances, cash registers, radios, video cameras, microwaves, really any kind of appliance, medical devices. Those are just general trash. How do you recycle electronics? Well, electronic recyclables are collected by the town of North Hempstead, and they're collected at various events that we have throughout the year, both our stop events and other events that we've set up specifically for electronic recyclables. That schedule can be seen on our website. If you have any questions about that, like I said, you can call 311. and we'll be more than happy to help you out. And that's the opportunity we have for electronic recyclables in the town. Just a couple of notes about electronic recyclables and how they should be prepared. First of all, electronic recyclables cannot go out on curbside for garbage. That's prohibited by state law. So if you have electronics, it has to be collected as a recyclable electronic. Also, if you're getting rid of a computer or a laptop, remember to erase, or to the best of your ability, to erase the hard drive. You can use a magnet to erase it. If you're feeling particularly aggressive, you can take a hammer and smash it. But it's generally a very good thing to get as much data off of that hard drive as possible, just to protect yourselves. Things that are generally not electronics that we get a lot of questions about are batteries. Batteries, your normal, everyday AA, AAA, 9-volt alkaline batteries are not hazardous waste. They're not considered electronics, and they can actually just be thrown into the garbage. When you start getting into like nickel cadmium batteries, marine wet cell batteries, car batteries, rechargeable batteries, lithium batteries, those are actually considered hazardous waste. They're not considered electronics either, and those should be brought to a stop event for disposal as hazardous waste. So again, just putting electronics in a nutshell: if it's electric, it's not recyclable. If it's electronic, it generally is. Televisions, computers, laptops, tablets, cell phones, printers, things of that nature. Erase the hard drives on the computers, bring them to a town e-waste collection event. Third major topic is number 5, plastic, and this is something that we're very happy about in the town. Right now, obviously our curbside recycling program is 1 and 2 plastic, and there's this very, very large universe of plastic that isn't taken into account just by that one curbside program. And that's number 5 plastic. Number 5 plastic is really anything that, again, it's the same as the plastic you put in the curbside. Identify it the same way. Turn it over. If it has the chasing arrow symbol with the number 5 in it, it's number 5 plastic. Examples of that: this is, you get a takeout container from a restaurant, chances are it's number 5 plastic. If you get a drink container from a restaurant, Starbucks cups are number 5 plastic. Soup containers are number 5 plastic. you'd be surprised how many things are number 5 plastic. I came home the other day from the garden store with plants for the garden, and the little pots that they came in, the temporary pots, believe it or not, were number 5 plastic. So you'd be surprised what is number 5 plastic. One thing that I'll just caution you about is when it comes to soup containers, you have to look at every part of the container you have, both the top and the bottom, and make sure it's number 5. When you see these small soup containers, either this or the quart versions or the pint versions, the bottom, most of the time, the bottom will be number 5. But the top, and I don't know the reason for this, but the top is most of the time number 4. And number 4 is not collected either curbside, nor do we have a program for number 4. So number 4 is garbage. But everything else, if it has a number 5 on it, number 5 is collected every Sunday between 7:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. at the resident drop-off at 999 West Shore Road in Port Washington. And that is the transfer station. We've been conducting this program since January. We've been actually getting a very good response to it. We're very encouraged by the amount of people who are coming in and dropping off at number 5. And we encourage everybody to do it. Just as far as preparation of your number 5, just like curbside recyclables, make sure, just make sure it's separated from your curbside recyclables. Don't bring other recyclables and throw it in the number 5 container. And make sure that it is clean. That's the general rule for everything that we do here. Make sure that it is clean. And that's number 5 plastic. So those are the 3 areas that I really just wanted to get the rules out there on. Curbside recycling. You got your plastic, your glass, your metal, all in one container. You've got your cardboard and your paper in another container. Electronics, bring them to a town electronics recycling event. Number 5 plastic, bring it to the resident drop-off. That's the general rules of recycling in the town. I know that I've probably not spoken about a lot of specific situations that people have, and that's why I'm here today. And I'll gladly answer any questions that anybody has about this.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I imagine there will be a number of questions, but I definitely appreciate you clarifying a number of things there that I had questions about. And I'm going to just take a look at what I had come to the chat here. Someone just wanted to make a note that Office Depot does take batteries to recycle. And then another question, just if you can clarify, the rules are the same throughout the whole town of North Hempstead, no matter which village you may live in?
The rules, the town sanitation code and our recycling rules are the same, whether you live in a town, whether you live in a town district, whether you live in a commissioner operated garbage district or an incorporated village. The only exception to that is there are 8 villages in the town that have opted out of our sanitation code. There's the villages of Plandome Manor, Great Neck Plaza, Great Neck Estates, Westbury, New Hyde Park, Williston Park, and Mineola. Other than those 8 incorporated villages, everywhere you go follows the same rules.
Okay. Let's see, I have a couple other questions here. Someone asked, I thought number 5 drop-off was every other Sunday. Is it each Sunday or every other Sunday?
It's every Sunday now, starting in March. Last year during the pandemic, for a number of reasons, we cut back resident drop-off to once every other week instead of once every week. Back in March, we went to operating the resident drop-off back to every week. So number 5 is accepted every week.
Okay. Is the tiny disc inside a K-cup recyclable?
the tiny disc inside of a K cup. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I mean, like I said, a K cup itself, a K cup, one thing I didn't mention is when it comes to items that are smaller than a credit card. Remember what I was saying, one thing in the beginning of the presentation was, recycling is very dependent on technology and it's very dependent on markets. And this falls in the technology category. A lot of recycling facilities are not, they're just not set up to take very, very small pieces of plastic. K cups are one of those things. Also, K cups are, they have a foil wrapping on the top. You have to clean the thing out. It's not something that lends itself to easy recycling. I'm not sure what disc you're referring to, but K cups are generally something that we should shy away from as far as recycling. As a general rule, anything that's less than a credit card or smaller than a credit card is difficult to handle in a recycling facility. You'll find this a lot when you go out to a restaurant and you get these little tiny 1 ounce containers of oil and vinegar or what have you, some kind of sauce. It's one of those things which is just going to just fly out of the machines or just fly off of the sorting line, and it's going to end up being garbage. So you're probably better off not putting those in recycling.
Okay, I think this is a related question, and I do see someone has their hand raised. We'll get to you in just a moment. So someone asked, a soy sauce lid, for example, even if it's number 1, is not recyclable?
Those are, I mean, it's a recycle. It's made from a recyclable plastic, but like I said, those very small containers, they don't lend themselves to being sorted properly or processed properly in a recycling facility. You can put them in your recycling container. There's nothing wrong about doing that, but the chances of it actually getting into a bale and getting into a machine properly are very, very low.
Okay. Can plastic and metal bottle caps be recycled, or should they be left on the bottles or separated?
They should be separated off of the bottles. Remember what I said about caps are usually both a plastic cap itself as well as a liner inside the cap that you can't get out, and there's also no marking on it as to what the type of plastic is. So those should be taken off and not put into the recycling.
Okay. Question to please discuss the weight or size limits for each curb pickup per day per resident.
Okay, so for recycling, there's no general rule throughout the town as to weight and size limits. I can tell you that if you do live in one of our incorporated districts, and I know that one of our garbage districts, and I know a lot of the commissioner operated districts and the incorporated villages follow suit with the same rule, is for garbage, you can put out 3 cans. Those cans have to be a maximum of 32 gallons each and weighing no more than 50 pounds when full. In our contracts, though, for recycling, because we want to encourage as much recycling as we can within our abilities, we actually don't have a limit as to recycling. But I will say, please, for the benefit of our recycling collectors, try to keep your cans to that same size and weight rule. I'm not going to limit how many cans you can have, but try to keep it to that size and weight rule, because the people who are collecting the garbage on the street, they're trying to get through 700 houses in a clip, and trying to get a 45-gallon container that's completely filled is going to be extremely difficult to get into the truck for some of these people. So for some of our collectors, so try to keep it to those same size and weight limits.
Okay. 2 people have a similar question. I certainly have had this question myself. What to do if you see recyclables, instead of being collected, thrown into the garbage truck, rather than recycled. Someone says it seems to be a prevalent problem throughout Port Washington. Any suggestions on how to address this?
Okay, so I'll say two things here. Number one, there's, and I'm not gonna say that anybody is wrong. I'm not gonna, that's certainly not the case. There are different ways of collecting recyclables and using different kinds of trucks to do so. You may see a garbage truck come down your street and collect recyclables. It doesn't necessarily mean that the recyclables are going in with garbage. They could be using a garbage truck to pick up recyclables. Some of these garbage trucks have different compartments in them where you can do both the garbage and the recycling at the same time. I'm just saying that as a consideration. I'm not saying that it's happening in any specific situation. But if you do suspect that a carting company is mixing recyclables with garbage, that's a big no-no. Please call 311. Please tell us about it. To the best of our ability, we can go and try to follow these trucks around, try to see what they're doing, and if they are, we can issue summonses, because that does violate the code, and we don't want it to happen for what should be obvious reasons.
Sure, of course. So that's the majority of what I see here in the chat. Bob, what about on your end? Did you get some questions to you?
Many. The first one is, should cardboard tubes be recycled with paper or with corrugated cardboard?
Well, like I said, paper and corrugated cardboard, we don't make a differentiation between the two. You can take your paper tubes, you can put it into your recycling container along with small boxes, along with paper. You can commingle those things. So you can put them all together if you want. You don't have to necessarily separate corrugated cardboard from everything else. Like I said, obviously the only consideration is if you have large boxes that need to be broken down, yes, break them down and tie them together, but generally these things can be mixed together.
Wondering if Tetra Pak cartons can be recycled, i.e. those cartons that have shelf-stable milk in them, and paper milk cartons with the plastic spout. Should that go in paper or plastic?
So milk cartons, I don't have an example in front of me, but milk cartons generally have this kind of waxy coating on it. That waxy coating means it cannot be recyclable. So a milk carton should go into the garbage.
Should we have two containers to separate paper? I guess from.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Should we have two containers to separate paper? In other words, I guess, should there be one container for plastic and another container for paper?
Well, there should definitely be one container for plastic, glass, and metal, and another container for plastic. Another container for paper. Like I said before, this is what we call commingled recyclables, the plastic, the glass, and the metal. That goes into one container, all paper goes into another container. Okay. Or clear plastic bag.
Can actual glasses be recycled?
Mean glasses like these glasses that I'm wearing?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I can't open the question.
So the answer for these is no. Glasses are they tend to be plastic more often than not, and they don't have a number on them. If we're talking about drinking glasses, the short answer is yes, because they're basically made of the same material that a container is made out of. I would just be careful about putting broken glass if you have a broken glass. Please do not put a broken glass into the recycling container, because that can lead to injury.
My son lives in a town in Florida which has stopped recycling because it was too expensive. How are we managing to keep it up?
They live in not in New York. You said Florida.
No, this is in Florida. Yes.
Okay. All right. How do we manage to keep it up? Well, we have a contract with a recycler that also runs our transfer station, where we actually don't pay them a fee for hauling recycling away from our transfer station. In exchange, and in consideration of that, we also don't charge for recycling to come into our transfer station from the carters. We charge for garbage, we charge for yard waste, we charge for construction and demolition debris, but we don't charge for recycling because we don't pay for recycling either. That's how we manage to keep it up. And if everybody were to follow the rules that we set out for recycling, we have a better chance of keeping that up in the future. Now that I'll just say that, recycling and source separation in New York, and I don't know what the laws are in Florida, but source separation and recycling in New York is the law. And it's state law. It's not our town law. It's state law, and it has to be followed one way or another. So when we ask ourselves, how do we keep this up financially? Well, financially, of course, it's a consideration. Obviously, money is always a consideration, but this is something that New York requires everybody to do. So we keep it up, and not only because of the law, but because we want to. It's good. It's good for the environment. It's good for reducing items that go into the waste stream, which do cost us money, and go to landfills and go to incinerators. So in a nutshell, recycling is not going anywhere.
Is there any cardboard that is not recyclable?
Is there any cardboard that is not recyclable? I mean, if you're talking about kinds of cardboard, I would say no, but like I said before, it depends on, if you have a box that's covered in food or grease or dirt, that is not clean, that is, that's contaminated, and you shouldn't put that out for recycling. Another question we get often is, what about wet cardboard? And the answer generally is wet cardboard is not recyclable. And I'll just go off on a minute about this. When it comes to wet cardboard, if you have like sopping wet cardboard, definitely please do not put it out for recycling. If your recycling day falls on a rainy day, what you should do is, if you can, put your recycling in a container, or put your recycling into a plastic bag, so that the cardboard doesn't get wet. If you have large boxes that you have to tie together and it's a rainy day, ideally, I would say keep those boxes in your garage or keep those boxes in your house and wait till the next recycling day. If you absolutely have to get rid of it on that recycling day and it's not pouring rain outside, you can put it outside. The top box will probably get wet. The ones underneath it will probably remain dry. It's not an ideal thing to do, but if you have to do it, we understand. Other than that, I would say, all other cardboard is recycled, and is collected as recycled.
Should the plastic window on either paper envelopes or like on a cardboard pasta box, should that be removed?
Yes, as I said before, they should be removed. The plastic that you get on these boxes is not recyclable plastic. So if it remains on the box, it's a mixed material. If it remains at the window envelope, it's a mixed material. If you throw an envelope in there and it has the window still on it, your recycling is going to get collected. But we do prefer that people take off those materials as much as possible. It just makes the whole process easier.
Is that true also of like tape on a box or shipping labels?
No, tape on a box and shipping labels, you can keep that on there. We don't expect people to tear all that off.
Here's some comment. Here's a comment. Please offer more stop events, as the line for the most recent event was much too long.
Okay, so the last stop event that we had in March was the first stop event of the year. The first stop event of the year tends to be a very busy event. We'll take that comment into consideration in scheduling future stop events.
Why did the town end electronic drop-offs on Sundays at the Shore Road facility?
Okay, so there's a few reasons why. Electronic drop-offs, because it's free to drop off electronics at Sunday drop-off. What the problem that we were seeing was we were having a lot of commercial entities coming in and trying to dispose of electronic items that they had collected for a fee, trying to deposit them for us for a fee. So what that resulted in was our being required to take not only the people who had to pay for dropping off recyclables at the, dropping off, just general rubbish, not only them having to go over to the scale, get weighed, having to take their ID to make sure that they were residents, but it required everybody who was dropping off recyclables for free to do so, whether you're dropping off electronics, or you were dropping off bottles and cans, or dropping off newspapers or cardboard, whatever. What that resulted in was a large backup at the transfer station on Sundays, which number one is just, it's not fair to people who are not dropping off recyclable, or not dropping off e-waste and dropping off other recyclables to have to wait in those lines. And also, and this has happened, the line backs up so much that the line leaves the transfer station, and that's also not a good situation. So what we did is we took the e-waste component, we took it out of there so that we didn't have those issues anymore, those operational issues, those waiting issues, those line issues at the transfer station, and put them in other locations. We set up 6 other events throughout the year in addition to the 4, and we are always looking and taking comment from people. If we need to have more events, we can look at scheduling more events. But we've been doing this since January of this year. It has been working out. The line for e-waste disposal at these events has generally been pretty short, and people get in and out. Those are the reasons.
Anything else on your end, Bob?
Oh,
I have
yes.
a couple more comments here.
I have two. Do the covers on jars go in recycling?
No, those should be put in the garbage. Those are made of different. They're mixed materials. They're not just metal.
Can I recycle wire hangers from dry cleaners?
You can. If what I would suggest doing is just folding them up so there's not just wire hangers sitting all over the place. But another suggestion for that is also the dry cleaners do appreciate taking them back. So depending on your dry cleaner, I won't say that they all do that, but a lot of them will take back those wire hangers that they give you.
Can a broken microwave go curbside for an appointment with?
I'm sorry, broken.
A broken microwave.
Broken microwave is trash, so that could go curbside. It could also be dropped off at the resident drop-off.
Okay. How do we recycle light bulbs?
How do you recycle light bulbs?
Yes.
Okay, so a regular we're in an age of compact fluorescent bulbs. Compact fluorescent bulbs contain mercury, which is a hazardous substance. So those light bulbs should be brought to a stop event to get rid of. You should not throw a compact fluorescent bulb into the garbage. And what I mean by compact fluorescent bulbs, or CFLs, because it's easier to say, essentially those bulbs that look like a corkscrew, the new energy saving bulbs. They're great for saving energy. Unfortunately, they have mercury. If you have a regular old light bulbs from before the time of compact fluorescent bulbs, those can be put in the garbage.
Is number 5 plastic recycle a curbside pickup or only drop off?
Only the drop off. And the reason for that is number 5 plastic from a marketing and plastic marketing perspective cannot be mixed with other kinds of plastics. The only way to have number 5 be collected at curbside is to install expensive optical reading technology at the recycling facilities, which right now they don't have. So the only place that we can collect it from is at the drop-off right now. But we are always looking to expand that program, make it easier for people.
What bins are available to us for separating items, even if for purchase?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
What bins are available to us for separating items, even if for purchase?
So the town used to sell recycling cans. We don't sell recycling cans anymore because, to be quite honest with you, you can get a recycling can for cheaper someplace else, like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something along those lines. You can use any can that you would like for recycling as long as it's marked as a recycling can, so that people, so that the collectors that come can identify it as recyclables. That's one of the reasons that we're going to be mailing to all the households these stickers, which are going to clearly identify people's recycling cans as this is a plastic, metal, glass can, and this is a paper, cardboard can. But we do have a suggestion that you buy a blue can for your paper and a green can for your commingled recyclables. You don't have to do that. It's just something we suggest, but you can really use any can that you would like.
What's the percentage of 1 and 2 that makes it through recycling efficiently? And could you talk about the difference? Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the last part of that?
And could you mention the difference between upcycling versus downcycling?
Okay, so the first part of that question is what percentage actually makes it through. I don't have numbers on what that is in the town of North Hempstead, because when it goes to the recycling facility is taking recyclables from us. They're taking it from other municipalities on Long Island as well. So we don't have numbers on that. I can tell you that as a general matter, nationally, I think that only 8% of recyclable materials, I think the number is 8%, are actually recycled. When you talk about upcycling, and this is really getting into more the theory behind things, but when you have a plastic container, or you have a plastic bottle, the impression that people have is that bottle just gets recycled over and over and over and over. The reality, and this has nothing to do with the town, and this is just recycling in general. The reality is a recyclable item, if it gets recycled, really only gets recycled once. That's just a general statistic. So I think that answers your question as to recycling rates. But we rely on our rules. We rely on the residents following the rules. We rely on everybody participating in the program as much as possible, that we can get those recycling rates up, at least in our little corner of the world.
Where do our recyclables go?
The recyclables that are brought to the transfer station are then transported to Omni Recycling's facility in Westbury. And at that point, they are sorted and baled for sale.
What about styrofoam for recycling?
Styrofoam is not recyclable. Styrofoam is it's polystyrene, and it's not recyclable.
Oh, what is the address of the transfer station again?
999 West Shore Road in Port Washington.
And here's a comment. Eyeglasses can be taken to an optical shop for donation to a charity that collects them.
It's good information.
What if there are staples in catalogs or magazines? Must they be removed?
No, they don't have to be removed.
What about LED light bulbs? Are they electronic waste?
LED light bulbs, we don't really get a lot because they last forever. They don't have mercury. I will, like I said, we don't get a lot of them. I will get back to you on that. I'll get back to Residents Forward on that.
Okay, and the smaller recycling cans, the size that Town of North Hempstead used to distribute, are not available, not at Home Depot, Alpers, or Lowe's. The big ones that are commercially available are huge. Please reconsider the decision to stock them. Okay.
Okay, so I do know that, my recycling can at home, I bought it at Home Depot. It's a 32-gallon container, which is pretty standard for garbage and recycling. I know that the recycling cans that we used to put out, I believe, are 20 gallons. Those are small. But again, we can always, we can again consider the sale of recycling buckets, but recycling cans. But like I said, they tend to be cheaper when you go to an outside source.
And I heard somewhere that water bottles are more valuable with their caps on. Is that true?
That is not, I don't believe that is true, no. And caps, the rule is that caps are supposed to be taken off.
Okay. Jeff, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I did have another question here and then one more comment. If it is raining, is it true that the paper gets ruined and not recycled? I know, Mikey, you mentioned that it's best to put that into a bin or some type of.
Well, exactly. When I was talking about cardboard, when paper gets wet, it turns into mush, and at that point, it's when you put it in the truck, it's not recyclable at that point. And that's why we say put your paper, put your cardboard in, put your paper, put your cardboard in bags, or put it in containers.
Got it. So I just a quick note. I did put the link to the brochure that you mentioned. I put that into the chat so people can
Great.
access that. And then I think this is just tagging along on the same comment about the percentage of plastics that are actually recycled. I think the idea here was to point out that recycling is just one of the 3 R's there. That
Yes.
in terms of plastic pollution, if that problem is to be addressed most directly, it's really to reduce the use of disposable plastics. And obviously you want to try to reuse stuff as much as possible, but really the solution to that lies more so with reducing the use of them from the beginning, as opposed
Right.
to trying to handle it on the recycling end.
Right, and that actually, I had that in my notes and I forgot to mention it, is that not only is recycling just one of the 3 R's, it's the last of the 3 R's. Reduce is the first one, reuse is the second one, recycling is the third one. So if you can reduce what you use, certainly. If you can't reduce it, reuse it. If you can't reuse it, recycle. So that should be the thought that we go into when we, or the thought that we go into situations where we decide what to buy, what to use. We should be taking all that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would tie into issues of climate change and things like that. The fossil fuel are used to create plastics, and again, to not to get too far off subject here, but you need to address it in terms of really at the source there, as opposed to trying to dispose of it after it's already been produced and bought by you, and then you're trying to dispose of it.
Right.
Let's see if I have
Jeff, I have two comments.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
One's directly for you. Jeff, at the end of the presentation, would you mind announcing our climate action event tomorrow night?
Yes, I was just about to get to that. So members of Transition Town Port Washington are holding an event tomorrow night, a virtual event on their climate action series. I encourage you to just Google Transition Town Port Washington or Landmark on Main Street for some more information about that. So go ahead, Bob.
And we've had quite a few questions asking if this event has been recorded.
Yes, so I'm very happy to say that our presenters were agreeable to us recording tonight's presentation, and I'm making sure that we're going to, include this extensive Q&A session as part of that recording. And I want to make a point really to take a chance to thank you, Michael. You've spent well over a half hour here answering all different types of questions, and I appreciate your patience and your time with this.
Of course, anytime. And what I just want to repeat is, if you have any questions about recycling, please reach out to us. You can call 311. The message will get to us. We return every 311 phone call that we get. And we'll be more than happy to answer any question that anybody